Now let's return to the recently released results of the West Africa Senior School Certificate Examination, WASSCE. We'll try to examine the results further as WAEC statistics show an improvement in the performance of candidates in English and mathematics over the previous year. We'll soon be joined via Skype by Professor Sishope Anku, but we have on the line Ken Podo on Skype. Ken, welcome. So what is your general impression of this performance? Well, we seem to be finding some difficulty in getting Ken Podo via Skype, but we'll re-establish contact with him. Let's take another look at. Okay, so we have contact with Ken Podo now. Ken, welcome. Okay, so let's take another look at the results that were released, the provisional results that were released by WAEC yesterday. We'll have the details for you on the screen in a moment. But like I was saying earlier, if you compare the performance from 2016 and 2017, there seems to be an improvement. Let's look here at English language results. 155,077 candidates had A1 to C6, that is 54.06% of all the candidates. D7 to E8 for that same subject is 73,409, that is 25.59%. F9 is 58,351, that is 20.35%. Now remember, we are looking at English, Math, Science, and Social Studies. These are the core subjects which every one of them needs to pass in before they can move to the highest level of tertiary education, that is university. So we'll look at maths, and then for mathematics, it's 122,540, 42.73% of those students having A1 to C6, D7 to E8, 106,024. That presupposes that for these 58,070 candidates, 20.27% of the entire candidature of the WASSCE this year, they will not be able to advance to the university because they had an F9 in mathematics. The same goes for 76,693 of the students, that's 26.75%. These ones failed integrated science, and so they also will not be able to move ahead. For social studies, it's 67,078. Of course, we do not know what the combinations are. It could be the number of students who will not be able to move higher could be higher than 76,000, because if you combine that figure, maybe there are some people who failed integrated science and maths as well. That could swell up the figure. And so we'll need to do that careful analysis. But looking there seems to be a general picture that about at least 27% of these candidates have failed in one of the core subjects, and so they will not be able to move on. Let's go on to our next slide here, and we have even more statistics for you. But then we have on Skype now Professor Sishope Anku. Before we take the second slide, Professor Anku, if you can hear me, welcome. What is your take on these results you've seen so far, your initial reaction?
Thank you very much, and good morning to all your viewers. My initial take is that if you look at it comparing to the previous years, you will see gradual improvement in the results. That's what I see, just offhand.
Okay, we are looking at a general improvement in mathematics performance, in English performance. How do you think this came about?
We always need to understand that to get good results, there is a process involved. That is hard work, studying to understand the concepts of mathematics and how to apply them and answer questions appropriately. That should be the focus of our teaching. And I think over the years, we have been doing this gradually, and it's picking up. If you look at I know we are talking about the WASSCE, but if you look at the BEC results that I have, the new ones have not been released yet, but you see the trend is improving. The same for the WASSCE. So what are we doing now? Like I said, it needs focus, serious studying on the part of the students and the teaching of the teachers, how the teachers teach is also very, very, very important. So what we do is, over the years, we've been trying to train some of the teachers, make sure we hold camps for students. We do so many other things that I think are yielding results now. But it's not over in one day. We have to continue the process, identify the things that are working, and continue to, maximize our benefits from there.
Okay, Prof, this is a marginal improvement. Would you say you are satisfied with the levels that we've gotten to with mathematics performance, for instance?
One failure is bad enough. So having about 58,000 students having state F, it's not good at all. But last year it was 90,000 that got state F. So 58,000 got state F now. For 90,000 to 58,000, you say that's an improvement. But it's not good enough because we should be doing better, far, far better. I keep saying all the time. The problem is not mathematics. Mathematics is not a difficult concept to grasp. It's not. You see, it is the way we teach mathematics and the way students study mathematics. There are too many things happening, choking the whole curriculum. You see, recently they set up a curriculum something for the ministry. And they want me to send them the concept of which I've sent them. And I've sent them, certain areas they want to look at very carefully. If we want to have an improvement that we can sustain. So there are many things to do, many things to do. But we must go back to the basics and make sure that we learn to understand the mathematics, connect mathematics to real life. We can solve problems of real life using mathematics concepts. And the classroom must be such that these things are clearly, demonstrated.
Now, Prof, usually mathematics is often grouped with integrated science, where students expected to do better in mathematics are also expected to do better in that subject. With that performance, it went down compared to the previous year. What are the lessons we can pick from what you've been doing? And Prof here is the president of the Ghana Mathematical Association, so you find him speaking a lot to what has been happening with regards to mathematics. Prof, what are the lessons we can pick from there and apply to a subject like integrated science?
Yeah, before then, the correction is Ghana Mathematics Society. Ghana Mathematics Society.
Thank you.
Now, lessons to be learned. You see, we keep saying all the time, everybody can learn mathematics. Everybody. And everything we do contains mathematics. So what approach do we, do we adopt to make sure that students understand mathematics? And we also claim that when your mathematics is good, you can do many other subjects well. We have a lot of evidence for that. So even in my concept about recommendation, one of them is that there are too many subjects being taught at the basic level so that students don't have grasp, of the mathematics. How does mathematics connect with science, the physics, chemistry, whatever, mathematics and geography, mathematics and even English, mathematics and history? You see, we need to review the curriculum in a way that we can relate all of these things properly in the classroom. The teaching way must change from just theory to experiencing, mathematics in these various areas. So this is what we have to do.
Some of these methods of teaching, for instance, are fixed by the policy makers. On the side of policy, what are some of the changes you would expect for us to get some of these improvements in other subjects?
Yeah, that's one thing I said is that we must adopt hands-on activity-based mathematics learning. And for that matter, for many of the topics they learn at the lower levels, it is too theoretical. You see, they don't get it. You come and say Pythagoras theorem, a squared plus b squared plus c squared. What are you talking about? What are you talking? They say Socrates, what are you talking?
Okay, so Prof,
must adopt a practical approach to make sure that the concepts as being taught are being related to real life situations where the concepts can be applied.
Right, thank you, Prof. Let's go now to our educationist Ken Podo, who has joined us via Skype. Ken, you have been following some of these trends over the years. What is your view of these performances? Is it something to celebrate? Is it something to be happy about? Or there's still a lot more work to be done?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. And my straight response to this is that there is still much more work that needs to be done on this, because this is nothing to be excited about, and that is the biggest challenge we have as a nation. We celebrate what we don't need to celebrate, because from 2015 to from 2016 to 2017, it says a slight improvement, and we are not looking at slight improvement. We should be making massive improvement when it comes to education, because our emphasis is not on education. Because if you go back into basic education, those that wrote this examination now, in what year were they in primary school, entering into senior high school, basic schools, JSS, and then senior high school? What was their performances around that time? When you look at the national assessment, education assessment that was conducted around that time, mathematics was 9.8%. That was the proficiency level, 9.8, and English was 23.7. Fast forward, these are the group of people that we are talking about now in senior high school. The stats I mentioned earlier was the national education assessment done for this group of people when they were in class 6, before they progressed to get to senior secondary school to write this examination. So it tells us that it is not something that we have paid critical attention to. I agree totally with what Prof said when it comes to instruction, teaching, ability to instruct children in that particular area. That is one of the difficulties that we have. And then also what I want us to look at before we begin to celebrate is that when we break these percentages into the public schools that are in urban areas and the public schools that are in deprived communities, what would the percentages be looking like before we begin to rejoice? It is possible 90 to 95% of these percentages we are looking at will be in the high level schools. So what is happening to our deprived schools over the period? So as much as WASSCE would come up and say there's a slight improvement in numbers, it is not something that we should be celebrating. No, it's not something that we should be celebrating at all.
Now, Ken, there are a number of stakeholders when it comes to delivering quality education. The experts will always say we have the students, we have the teacher, we have the parents, and of course, somewhere in there, we have to factor in government. Which link of this chain do you think needs the most work?
The one that we have not worked on in this three link that you just mentioned is the teachers. Parents also have a role. Parents are the first teachers. I agree to that. And there are people that are trained professionally, technically, to provide these skills to the children that we have in our schools. The question that we should be asking is, who is that particular individual in the classroom? If I say who, the question is, what is the skill that that person has in instructing in that particular subject? That is question number one. And what is the level of the person's skill in instructing in that particular subject? That is number two thing that we need to watch. Why do I say that? Because if somebody is supposed to teach mathematics, that person should understand mathematics and have the skill in mathematics to instruct. But here is the case, the person who is going into the university or the college of education to get himself instructed has a deficiency in that particular subject. Be it English, be it mathematics, be it social studies. That person has a deficiency in that area. So we go to build on that deficiency for the person to come out to instruct. At the end of the day, what is the person going to impact onto the children? And then also for we parents, How many of us take interest in what is happening in our schools? How many parents even know the names of the class teachers of their wards or their children? How many of us go to school to even find out what is happening in the classrooms? Above all, how many of us make an effort to buy even textbooks, exercise books, pen and pencils for our wards to even practice? We don't do them. How many reading areas do we have in our communities? How many parents? How many DCEs? How many MPs? How many presidents in our nation make the effort to even go into deprived communities, urban areas, to read with the children, for children to appreciate that education is the key and not going or cutting waste is what it is. We do not place emphasis on education, period. And that is why we have the challenges that we have. If you want to reflect
would that not be unfair to make? Because if you look at the budgetary allocation to education, for instance, in Ghana, it is even more than some developed countries what they devote to education. The challenge that a lot of stakeholders in education will tell you is that the majority of this money goes into staff remuneration and not investment into infrastructure or resources.
Yeah, you've just said it. Because for what I believe in is that instructing somebody does not necessarily mean to be in a four-wall place that we call a classroom. Instructing people is that you are in the classroom as a leader. So if you spend all the money on paying salaries and all those other things, it tells you where the emphasis is. So we have less amount of money. And mind you, the issue here is who is funding that particular budget. That person determines where you put the money. If we do not have our own money to put into education, and we are looking for somebody's money to put into education, the person will restrict you in how you develop your people because he doesn't want you to compete with him or her in that area. So it is more about a psyche. We should reorient our minds and our understanding that education is the foundation on which everything will be built. Because if we do not instruct these children in a way that when the child comes home and he looks at his daddy's plate, he's able to calculate the circumference of the daddy's plate, but you teach mathematics as an abstract thing, that child cannot relate to it.
Right. Thank you very much, Ken Podo, for your time. He is an educationist. He was joining us there about some of the provisional results that came from WAEC yesterday. You're still watching News Desk. Of course, now we went on social media and we asked you what you think about the standards of education on the basic level and in the senior high school level. Let's look at what you had to say. Right. So on the screen here, we asked you, who do you trust to provide quality education at the secondary level? 65% of you said you trust government. 33% said we should put you in private hands. And 2% don't care. And so it looks like when it comes to the secondary level, the state is a trusted partner. And it's obvious if you look at the top 20 performing schools, when it comes to WASSCE performance, for instance, you find that a number of them are public schools. Now, at the basic level, it's quite a different story because here, 63% of you are saying you want the private sector, and about 22% are saying government, and the other 5% are saying that they quite don't care. Okay, so it's 65% preferring the private sector, 29% preferring government, and 6% are saying they don't care at all. So it's an interesting flip there where more people prefer the private sector in the basic level, yet the same people prefer government at the secondary level. Well, that's it about that discussion. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about that simple way of clearing a car from the port. Stay tuned in.